17th work session to order. Call the roll, please.
Ms. Campbell? Here. Mr. Cole?
Yes. Here.
Mr. Denning?
Here.
Mr. Follenkamp? Mr. Schock?
Here.
Mayor?
Here. Mr. Follenkamp has asked to be excused. He will be late. He plans on being here by 6:30. Mr. Smith has asked to be excused because he is in California on a First Suburbs, I believe, meeting.
That's correct.
So is there a motion to excuse one or both?
Both.
So
moved. Second.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, seconded by Mr. Schock. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, we did get a new agenda. So are there any corrections or additions to the new agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for the revised agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Schock.
there's two resolutions I wonder if we could put on hold until the next meeting. Let me get it. Boy, I feel backwards today. No, yeah, it was 12R 1671. I would like to yank that and pull it for the next meeting.
Are you asking that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put in a formal motion. On the agenda, I would like to have a resolution table at this time. That'd be 12R 1671.
71. Yes. Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Schock. It's been second. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, well, hearing none, I guess we'll go ahead and have a vote on that then. Would you like well, go ahead. Okay. There's been a motion on the floor. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I vote no.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Campbell? Mr. Cole?
No.
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Mr. Schock?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
No.
So the motion fails. Okay.
Okay.
So it stays on the agenda.
Stays on
Approve agenda.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, seconded by Mr. Schock to approve the agenda, the revised agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We'll move into the work session items. First work session item, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight I'd like to welcome Oakwood Council member Steve Byington from the First Year Suburbs Consortium, who is here today to address council with respect to what the First Years Consortium is working on as far as an agenda for the 2012 year. So with that.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Byington, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Welcome to Riverside.
Thank you very much.
We're glad you're here, and we're being real interested in hearing what you got to say.
I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Once again, my name is Steve Byington. I'm the Vice Mayor of the City of Oakwood. Very happy to be here tonight in Riverside, and actually I'm very happy that you don't have a full house. The last two meetings that I've been to were at Huber Heights and at the City of Kettering. Both times that I went to, they had very controversial issues that lasted 3 or 4 hours. So hopefully your session won't last that as long as those, and that I've broken my streak of long meetings. As was mentioned, I'm the current chairman of the First Suburbs Consortium of the City of Dayton. Also a member of the National First Suburbs Consortium. Actually, Mr. Smith is at our summer conference currently. I wasn't able to attend because Oakwood has one of our big festivities this weekend, and I wasn't able to go. But for those of you who might not be familiar with the First Suburbs Consortium, we are a group of 14 municipalities and cities from around the region. I'll list them for you just so you can see the breadth of the diversity we have. It's Clayton, Centerville, Jefferson Township, Harrison Township, Huber Heights, Kettering, Miamisburg, Moraine, Oakwood, Riverside, Trotwood, Vandalia, West Carrollton, and Washington Township. Our group is primarily made up of elected officials. We do have some appointed officials that act as members of our group as well. What our mission is to revitalize mature, developed communities and raise public and political awareness for the problems that are going on in our individual communities around the central core city of Dayton. I just wanted to go through just a few things of who we are, where we came from, what we're facing, and exactly where we're going in the future here. As I mentioned before, because we're a consortium of cities that ring Dayton, and actually, if you listen to some of the ones that I mentioned, Washington Township, Centerville, they don't really have a direct adjacency to Dayton, but we've found that a lot of the same issues that the first ring suburbs are facing are also being seen in the outer communities. So we decided that the more the merrier, and the sharing of information is very important. One of the benefits of our coalition is that it allows members of each of the individual communities to sort of share things about their own individual communities, which some folks might not be aware of. It shows the commonality that we have in issues that are facing us, as well as allows us to exchange ideas how certain groups might be addressing things. Where we came from is originally we were a subcommittee of the National League of Cities. They have a national organization, as I mentioned before, that I sit on, as well as Mr. Smith. We also have a representative, Jan Vargo from Huber Heights, and Barb Staggs from Trotwood, who sit on this national committee. In 2005, it was decided that the Dayton region itself probably needed a consortium that we could actually just specifically talk about the Dayton region. So in 2005, the communities came together and we formed this group. One of the major accomplishments I think that our group has done has been that we've developed a trust level between a lot of the different communities. I think before then there was always this sense of, you know, you have your own individual community, you have your own set of issues. There wasn't a lot of sharing of information and ideas, and I think we, by having a strong group of elected officials on our consortium, that we've really started to develop trust levels between each other. Where we're going, as I mentioned before, we've brought together a core group of respected leaders that have a diversity throughout the region. What we're trying to do now is develop a set of priorities of issues that need to be taken on. When we were first formed in 2004, the primary function was to get members together to discuss certain ideas, things that are going on, get guest speakers to come into our meetings and maybe talk about certain issues, whether it be urban sprawl or regionalism or those type of things. Most of those meetings ended up with a lot of information being conveyed, but there wasn't a lot of action items that were actually taken from those meetings. I think we've gotten to the point now where we have such a trust level amongst all of our group that we really decided that it's time to start acting on some of the ideas and concepts that we have been talking about for all these years. Some of the major issues that we're looking at right now to come up with the developable policies for are regionalism versus home rule. I think everybody has heard the phrase regionalism. In my estimation, regionalism is sort of like the word world peace or bipartisanship. It's something everybody wants, but nobody really understands exactly what it means or exactly how do you achieve it. So regionalism has sort of this complexity to it, but we also have the concept of home rule, which allows cities to sort of do what they need to do. So how do those two things blend together? How do we work together as a region while maintaining our individual identities as cities? Also, the concept of urban sprawl is something that's been around for a long time. I think every community is dealing with it in its own ways. It's pretty evident if you look at demographic material that the Dayton region is not growing in terms of population. It's been fairly stagnant, and in fact, in the last 5 or 10 years, we've actually seen this very small decrease in the population. And yet, if you look at the developable land, the land that has green space that has been turned into developed land, we've increased that by 40% over the last 20 years. So it's one of these concepts where we're not getting a lot more people, but yet we're building further and further out, which taxes our resources in terms of infrastructure, money spent on road work, and those type of things. So as a region, I think our group is looking to figure out how do we maybe curb that and develop growth boundaries amongst communities to see if we can utilize the very small resources that we get from the state and use them better. Also, the concepts of redevelopment and assisting small businesses. I think that we all see a definite push by communities to try to bring in new businesses to the area. A lot of money is spent economic development-wise to draw in new businesses from outside of our region. One of the things I don't think is really addressed as much as the businesses that are already here, the ones that have been here for 20, 30 years, that are going through tough economic times, and how do we help those businesses as well? It's great to have new people come in, it's great to bring in new businesses, but we can't forget about or neglect the businesses that have basically been our backbone for a long time. And then just concepts of such as smart growth and urban growth boundaries, those type of things. Some of the accomplishments that we have made over the last couple of years is we've developed a video project that encourages people to understand that if your house is, you live in a community that you really love, it has the characteristics that you like, but your house suddenly becomes too small. In the past, one of the thoughts has always been, well, let's just move out to a new development somewhere else, bigger, better, further out. And we've developed this video series to encourage people to maybe fix up their houses and see what kind of things they can do in their own communities. Thinking about staying in their own community first rather than moving elsewhere. Those videos have been on everything from kitchen remodeling to family room remodeling, bathrooms, exterior space, and then whole house renovations. We've also been very active with the University of Dayton and their Pitt Center for Public Policy. We work with the students every year in terms of developing some sort of project for them to work on that relates to first-tier suburbs. It gives them an opportunity to get some real-world experience, and allows us to get some valuable research that helps us in our efforts. Basically, that's about my presentation. I just wanted to, as I mentioned before, I'm making a whirlwind tour of all the individual communities. We've been in the area since 2004. We have representatives from all the communities, and hopefully your members, Mike and Ed at one time was very involved, and Bill was our chairman last year. Hopefully they brought information back to work sessions, but what I really decided to do was to try to go out to each individual community, raise the awareness of what we're trying to do, and encourage you, if you have any topics or specific things that you would like to see first tiers work on, to bring those to your individual representative so they can bring them to our meetings. And at this point, I'll open it up for questions if anybody has any.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Byington? I just want to say that the next meeting, we will be having the 3 county commissioners coming, and it is in Moraine. So I hope that folks from the council feel welcome to attend, because it's going to be a very good meeting.
Yeah, one of the things that we, if you've been following things going on in the news right now, the county is developing, or has developed, a program called MCO Futures, Montgomery County, Ohio Futures. It is an opportunity for people throughout the county to give input on where the county needs to go in the future in terms of shared services, everywhere from education to a lot of other different things. One of the things that we've been very interested in First Tier Suburbs Group is exactly what their goal is. I've been to I've been to both of the sessions that they have at this point, and they've been very informative in terms of the topics that they've talked about, but they've been sort of light on the exactly what they're trying to achieve. So using a little of the poll that we have, we got all 3 county commissioners to agree to come to speak at our next meeting. And that's going to be an opportunity for us as elected officials to sort of grill them on exactly what it is that they're trying to achieve, ask them some specific questions about what they see their methodology being for the future. And I encourage anybody who wants to
So
attend.
we need them to define identifiable and measurable goals, not just vague, we want it to be better.
Right, yeah, as I mentioned before, regionalism just tends to be, let's work together. Well, there's a lot of ways to work together, and so we're really looking for specifics, we're looking for actionable items that they can tell us, this is where we're going in the next 2 years, this is what we want to try to achieve in the next 5 years. I think that those are very realistic things for us to ask of our county officials.
But also, too, you can make it aware that to the county officials that most of the cities in the surrounding Dayton area, the first tiers, are working together, sharing resources. We're already doing it. But you and I have an idea of where they want to go. And that's not something that's all favorable to us cities as individuals.
Right.
So,
As I mentioned before, the concept of regionalism versus home rule, I think they're going down a certain path, and I think that a lot of our individual communities are thinking that we need to understand exactly why they're going down that path when, as you said before, a lot of the benefits that go along with regionalism are already being done. Shared services, discussion amongst communities, looking for every opportunity to come up with something that will decrease our costs while still maintaining the high level of service that we like to give to our citizens.
One of the other advantages of First Suburbs is, as Steve said, I was the chair for the last 2 years. Prior to that, it was Peggy Lehner, who is senator now, Ohio's senator, and then the mayor of Oakwood, Judy Cook, were the 2 previous people who were the chair. And so Senator Lehner has had a really positive experience being on Kettering Council and being part of First Suburbs. She really is a good person to go to, and she's really fighting for what she can in Columbus at this point. And because she does understand what we are doing, and a lot of that understanding came because she was the chair of the First Suburbs and knew what was going on. So I know she's working really hard for us, but it's a tough climate right now. It's always good to have folks up there working for us.
Yeah, the other thing I always end these meetings with is just an encouragement that at one of our meetings a while back, I mentioned the fact that during the Oakwood City Council meetings and during our work sessions, we spend a small portion of each meeting actually talking about issues that go on beyond our own borders. I think that's really important that as a council that you remember that your very first and foremost priority is your own constituents, but that we all are part of a bigger region, and that we really need to make sure that we discuss those issues, that if there's things that concern you, that you bring those up with your representative first tier so that we can take those on as well. We really have to raise all boats at the same time, and that's something that I was surprised that some councils said that they don't do. And it's something that I'm trying to encourage more and more councils to do, just because I think it's important, not only for your own citizens, but everybody in the region.
It's tough. It's tough. That was one of the major criticisms I got from Councilmember Hankins from Trotwood is, Bill, there's more than just Riverside. It is hard sometimes because you do want to think about your own community and work hard for that. So
Sure.
It's harder to think bigger, but it does teach you.
It is a challenge, but
It teaches you to do that.
Just out of curiosity, has there been any discussion amongst the first tiers group, perhaps maybe at one of the MCO future meetings, about perhaps maybe balancing that home rule aspect with the regional component on matters that are not judicial? And I'll give you an example. There is the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, which impacts all of the communities within the area. There is the Animal Resource Center, again, the benefit to all the communities. There is the library system. There is Metro Parks. All of those have their own umbrella of administration, and they have their own organizational setup. And you know, the talk of regionalism is quick to say, well, if cities, you know, had a regional fire department, there'd be fewer chiefs and fewer battalion chiefs. And if cities had agreed to a regional police department, there'd be fewer chiefs and fewer deputy chiefs, and that would save costs.
Sure.
Would it not also be true that you could combine all of those organizations within a council of government?
Sure.
And knowing that those are all organizations that concern us, has that been an approach that First Tiers has thought about in trying to address the regionalism component, is maybe looking at how to mold those organizations together in a council of government where we are currently, in most of those instances, we already have a voice on those boards. Not in all, but in most.
Right.
To be able to combine those together to bring about that regionalism, but yet protect home rule, at least in this stage of the game.
To be completely blunt, I think one of the difficulties with some of the organizations that you mentioned is that they are more, I hate to use the word rubber stamping, but I mean, they're more organizations that sort of have a very set agenda. They don't really deviate much from the specific things that they're trying to achieve. And that's not really that's just sort of a truth that they are focused on getting, you know, in the case of Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, they're focused on transportation issues. It would be good if that group could, and I serve on that group too, so I'm guilty as well, if they could pull back and say, what is it that we need to, as this group, be doing and working with other folks? Unfortunately, because of some of the financial issues that we're at in the state, is, you know, we're trying to solve the nuts and bolts of, you know, how do we keep all of our roads up and running, our bridges, everything else, that it makes it difficult sometimes to do a lot of the planning that I think is very important. But it is something that our group is trying to push, encouraging groups to do. Also, you know, when we look at the MCO futures, one of the things I have been disappointed with that particular group is that they, not necessarily intentionally, but they have circumvented the elected officials in that process. When they decided that they needed to look at a regional approach, it would have made sense to me that they would have said, okay, well, let's talk with all of the individual groups or the parties who are actually going to be affected by it. Let's talk with the elected officials. Let's talk with all these planning organizations and various different services groups. That didn't take place. What they've done is directly gone to the citizens and say, we're just going to open it up to everybody to do those things. That's question number one that I have for them next week at our meeting, is why we have circumvented the elected officials and gone straight to the public. Because I think all of us have enough experience in the region to understand what kind of shared services are taking place right now, what opportunities are available. I can guarantee you that, you know, my city manager has a whole checklist of ideas of things that he would like to see if it was possible, and I'm sure you're in the same boat. So it's something that we just need to get in front of the right people and make our case.
But that would be an interesting meeting, have all those folks in the room at one time. But it might not be a bad idea.
Well, the reason I'm guessing that it hasn't happened is that you know, just think about your own group. You know, how many contentious issues have you had where you've only had, you know, this number of folks. Try getting a group together of you know, if you look at every single municipality in the area, you're talking, you know, 60, 70 people in a room, all with their own individual, you know, ideas, their own areas that they need to protect. So it can be be very tough. Just serving on the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, I've seen that.
Well, there was discussion at one of the first suburbs meetings, national ones. We did talk about trying to get that Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission, instead of having, 78 people on the board, get it down to 6 or 7 so we can really get something done. And that discussion was had, we really never moved forward on it, but it's awkward. It's very, very awkward trying to have an organization that has 78 people, I believe it is, you know, trying to make a decision. And, you know, if we could get it down to a reasonable amount of folks, I think it would not be a rubber stamping group as it is now. And so
one of the benefits of serving on the national committee is that we do get to share ideas with groups such as
there are some that have that.
Yeah, Portland, Minneapolis, you know, even communities like Louisville and Indianapolis that have implemented certain aspects of regionalism. The key that I always try to stress when I speak about it is that it is not some great panacea, and it's not something that is going to be able to just you pull off the shelf and say, let's do exactly what Louisville did, or let's just do exactly what Indianapolis did. Regionalism works when it's done specifically for the constituents that are being served. And that means we have to get all of our groups together and identify the issues that are important to us and solve those. We can't rely on just some sort of plan that somebody else managed to pull off, because it just doesn't work that way. It would be nice if it did, but that's just not the way it works. It's going to be a lot of hard work. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Councilman. Appreciate it very much. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Actually, I have another meeting at 7 o'clock.
Oh,
So, thank you.
Sir. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a joint session meeting with the Health and Safety Commissions and the Parks and Recs Commission. Mr. Manager, anything you would like to say?
Mr. Mayor, just briefly for the record, if it could be noted that Councilmember Fulenkamp arrived at 6:24 to the work session. That would be appreciated. With respect to the joint work session, this is an annual recurring event. This particular work session is with both the Health and Safety Commission as well as with the Parks and Recreation Commission. I do see representatives here from both. So with that being said, sir, I will turn the floor back over to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Manager. And we'll start off with Health and Safety Commission. And I see some good members there. So if the chair would please like to step forward. Welcome. Welcome, Dave. Welcome to all of you.
First off, Mr. Tim Snyder is our chair, and he's on official business out of town. I'm the vice, so my name's David Brown for the record. I've got a couple topics I'd like to address. First one is the dog parks, and you've already heard some of the pictures I've made on this at some of our social events, but we had our grand opening this year, and we had terrible weather, but even at that, we had about 15 dogs and about 20 people show up. We had a guest speaker, which was Jeff Schuman from the Riverside Mental Hospital, who addressed the primary issues to do with feces and why it's so important to have your dog annually taken care of through your vet to make sure you have their shots and that they're well protected, so that dogs pass on to other dogs and dogs pass on to humans, and we do the same thing with dogs. So he really gave a good pitch. In addition to that, he has promised me, and I reminded him again, that he was going to provide me with an article that we can put in the local newspaper, and we can also do in our newsletter, our city newsletter, to cover some of the same things that he addressed before. Also, if we have another event later on this year, sometime at the park, he has volunteered to come back and maybe reach a bigger group and give a very good presentation, and he would take care of that for us. I have checked the park on occasions. My park, as one individual, I have not seen feces anywhere in the park. Services may have another comment, I don't know, but I have not seen anything. Relationship with the people that use the park has been excellent in the evenings and on the weekend. The families or communities that residents that back up to the park have been very pleased with what we did with that piece of ground. It's all done volunteer work. And it's being utilized, and they're pleased with it. And they have dogs that come up to the fence, and without even having to come over into the bar park, and actually enjoy the company. The other dogs just being there. Service department brought in some dirt, and was a recommendation was given to me. We had some gravel area, rock area, and some few holes here and there because of that area not being utilized formally for anything before. And so they brought dirt in to fill all that in. I've spent a little time there just on my own, lowering the chain fence on the gate because it was way too high for little dogs to get under. And also the service entry, closed the gap just a little bit by just, adjusting things. So that was taken care of. I think that's the main thing on that. The other subject.
But could I, before we go there?
Sure.
It's just something I thought of as far as the bark park. One of the things that maybe are missing is maybe a bench for people to sit and watch the dogs. And I was wondering, I don't know if Health and Safety wants to do it, or if you could even, have some kind of fundraiser and say maybe somebody could pay for a bench out there in memory of someone or something like that, and just have, I don't know, have some benches out there for people to watch their dog.
In order for me to answer that question, I will let the manager.
It's been brought up. Has it been brought up?
That's an issue that has been discussed, and keep in mind that when we sat down and talked about this idea, this was kind of a pilot project. So it has been done utilizing existing resources from the city's inventory. So right now there is a picnic bench that is within the fenced-in area. Now obviously that's not something that we would want in there long-term, but we didn't really want to invest the labor, the materials, and the cost to permanently place some of these items and then find out that it was not a success and wind up having to correct that issue. So right now this is kind of in the pilot phase, the test phase. So once we get through probably a season, maybe two, if it is still well used and it's still well liked by the community, we'll begin making some more permanent adjustments. So that's where we would put in. We would put in the permanent bench. We might be able to extend water service. There's one section of the fence that's a little lower than the other. So those are things that we would upgrade in time once we knew that the facility was being used appropriately and on a regular basis.
I definitely don't think the city would have to pay for a bench. I think that there would be some folks, and I have a couple even in my own mind, that might be willing to donate enough money to have a bench as long as it.
Mr. Mayor, the other, Stebbins, the building construction crew might be able to build. I mean, that's a fairly simple project that they could probably, possibly they might be interested in doing.
Good, very good. Very good. I'm glad to hear that.
But that's another area that we've already tried and it didn't work.
But it could, it could.
But that doesn't mean it worked. We tried that already.
So when you do decide to embark on that, let us know, because I think there's
Well, as I had
interest
told
in it.
our city manager that as we agreed upon in the beginning when we took this on, that this would be at next to no cost to the city, and so far it's been that. I did address exactly what you just brought up, that if money is an issue to build some things in there, the benches, sure, that I'd be more than willing to take that challenge and go out and get the money. So I mean, it's something we have discussed.
I offered him a ski mask too.
I'm sorry?
I offered him a ski mask.
Oh. Good, good.
To just finish up on that subject just a little bit, I do want to address it, that, as I said, everybody I've talked to that uses the park is tickled. I've asked, do you have pros and cons? Tell me. Everything has been positive. The only negative I have received, could be common to the city parks in general, is that those that follow the rule, that use the park off leash, too many people are using community park off leash. And that's the one complaint. So people come in being honest and somebody's attacking their dogs. There's been several incidents of it. And I know they do the same thing in Shelburne too, because I know they open the car and stuff. And we're not supposed to do that. So I mean, that's the only negative that I heard as it relates to, asking the question, are there any issues? But they've all been very positive. The only other item, and I'm just going to touch on it lightly, and I would ask, the lady here or something to expand on it. But starting off, well, let's just say our biggest event this year is going to be the Black Rodeo. That kicks off this Saturday. And that will be at Aurora Park on the 19th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then our secondary event on the same heading will be on June the 9th from 11 to 1 at Beverly Gardens Elementary School. And I'll let you, if you'd like to come up and address all the particulars and details, since this is a project that she has worked on for quite some time.
No.
Welcome.
Howdy. The only thing on the Bark Park before I start back on the rodeo, we need to have signs to direct them where to go to. Because if you don't know where Community Park is, you don't know where that Bark Park is. So anybody that lives in the area like you do, or I do, may not know exactly how to get there. So if we had a sign put up, and better rules about keeping your dogs on a leash, would be the only two things I would have to address on that. The other one is, the rodeo is this weekend. All of you are more than welcome to come out and help in any way you can. We do order bike helmets. We do fit them with kids. We do donate bikes to the kids so that we can teach them how to ride safely, ride with their helmets on. We have the police over there that help us out. They run the kids through the course on how to ride their bikes. AAA helps us on that also. So they have all that there. We want our kids to be safe. We want them to be able to ride the streets and the sidewalks where they live at without any problems. So if you guys have any questions.
Any questions for health and safety?
So you need help cooking hot dogs, is that?
Yes.
I believe the mayor is going to be our cook this year. And Mr. Manager is picking up our food on Saturday.
Yes, that is correct.
I ordered it already, thank you.
I will be there, but I have another meeting at 11:30.
If you can get it started
I'll
up,
get
we
there.
can put somebody else right in there.
I'll get there at 10 or 10:30 and get
Yeah,
things started.
Mr. Deputy can come out, he hasn't been to a rodeo yet, it'd be nice to see his face there.
11 to what?
11 to 1.
All right. Let's see what.
And it is a fun time. There's so many kids around it. Just everybody's having a good time. So when's the second one? I'm sorry.
June 9th, here, let's do it like this. I brought one for the council.
June 9th?
Tell them how many helmets do we have?
Just one.
Well, I'll do that. Usually we give out right around at 500 helmets between the both of them. We keep it Aurora Park on this one because we seem to have a real big response over there. It seems to be an area, not trying to put it down, where the kids need helmets more from us than they do because they're not as affluent as some of the other areas. We've now gone to Beverly Gardens on the other one because some of the airmen don't make the money everybody seems to think they do, and we want their kids just as safe. So a lot of times, if we pick the right weekend, the MPs will come over and also help us out there. So we do it over there also. But we're trying to hit places where the kids are, where we can get to them, and we can actually speak to the parents to let them know that the importance of this. We've had parents come back to us and that 2 years later wanted to know if they could have another helmet because their child had been in an accident, and the only thing that saved them from being hurt was they had the helmet on. So we want to incorporate this into what we're doing so that everybody knows what we're doing.
We need to collect those stories. That's amazing.
We're working on that now.
Oh, good, good. But those are so important to for people to hear those stories.
Well, I want the helmets back now when they do this, because I would like to be able to display the helmet there, saying this child is now alive because he had this helmet on and it saved him from having any serious head injuries. So that people will realize, because visual means are a lot more than, I mean, they make a bigger impact than just talking to them. You can talk to some people till you're blue in the face and they don't understand. But if they see that child's helmet there and it's all banged up or cracked or whatever, and knowing that that was on a child's head, now that made an impact on them that talking to didn't do. So from here out, we're going to get the helmets back from them, and I'm more than happy to give them blinkers for their bikes so that if you're riding and it's starting to get dust, turn them blinkers on so that the drivers see you in autos. so that you're not a target then. So, I mean, if you guys have any suggestions that you would like to do, please come out and see how the rodeos are run, volunteer to help. And if you have some suggestions, we're more than happy to listen to them. You might see something that would improve that we didn't see, and you might like what you see.
Well, thank you very, very much. We appreciate all your work. And is there any questions from the audience for the Health and Safety Commission? Anybody have any thoughts? Yes?
Yeah, who pays for what you're doing?
We do.
You do.
We do the,
Well, we have a budget that we do, but
From the
then,
city?
yeah, but then we also do donations. Like
Okay.
Ponderosa donates a bike to us, so we have bikes to give away.
and the
The
helmets.
VFW, you give us money and stuff like that. And then the helmets come out of our budget. And if we don't have enough on our budget, we see if we can't get somebody else that would donate to us also.
And
So we
the
try not to put too much of a strain on the city.
Right, and the helmets, you guys get them at a dirt cheap price from what I understand. But
Yeah.
do you have somebody who knows how to do that, Mary Kay?
Yeah.
Do you use for Children's Medical Center, the helmets?
Children's Medical Center used to give us 50, they are now dropped down to 25. But and the ones they give us, all 25 of them are more like toddler helmets. So, in a lot of them, and it's a real big help to us because the people I go through is a nonprofit organization, so we're able to get them for like $5 to $6 a helmet. And you go in the stores and they're $20, $25 a piece. So I'm able to do it like that, but they don't have them small enough to fit toddlers. So that's why you have to be there, your child has to be there, and they have to be fitted because, like children's, when they showed us how to do this, an ill-fitting helmet is worse than having a helmet on, no helmet on at all.
They all
So-
tend to put it on the back of their head, you know, slip it back instead of square.
And then if you hit your forehead, you didn't do any good. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we tell them that, you know, you don't normally understand. Little girls never should have ponytails on underneath their helmets. Because that's like having a big rock underneath your helmet, and if you hit, it's shoving it right into your skull. And it will crack your skull. You wouldn't think that, but it's a big mass under there that has nowhere to go.
True.
So we like to be able to talk to the kids, talk to the parents. You can explain to them, this is what you need to do. If you're going to wear a ponytail, wear it at the base of the helmet so you don't have it underneath the helmet. When you tell them why you're doing this, then they understand. So, but the helmets that children's give us, they dropped it down to 25. Now, I also found out that Beaver Creek does a bike rodeo, but they get the 25 helmets from children's also, and that's the only thing they give away, is those 25 helmets. So the first 25 that fit is it, nobody else gets anything. So I like to rub it in that he's better than
Nice.
That's good, that is good.
So, after you instruct them, you hand them something, a handout to remind them what they've just been told that they can take home?
We talk to the parents,
You talk.
and then the kids are supposed to sign up that they will wear their helmets. And Miss Reynolds, who's been a wonderful council member before, has always come to the rodeo. She helps the kids. We bought stickers. I got them at a real good deal, like 25,000 stickers for $50. But she helps them put stickers on their helmet. And if you can decorate your helmet the way you like it, you know, you'll be more apt to wear it then. So we buy all the plain helmets. The kids put all the stickers on, and then they'll wear their helmets out.
The reason I asked that question was, I mean, sometimes people forget.
Well, if we talk to the parents and we can express to the parents just how important it is that they wear the helmets, that they wear them properly.
That's the
And you know,
part.
and once your child grows a little bit, you know, you can come back the following year or the year after that and get another one. Because we used to do it in the fall, and we realized that through some of the feedback, doing it in the spring was better because then the kids could wear them all summer long. So we changed it up to do it that way. So we appreciate feedback from the community because a lot of times they can tell us things that, you know, you're too close to see it.
Would it be appropriate to put up a little sign that says if you've outgrown your helmet, would you guys be willing to take them
No.
back?
We were told no.
Why?
You don't know, A, they stress first it's a health issue. There's no way we can sanitize the helmets. So if this child had medical issues, we could pass it to the next one. And their big thing was head lice. You know, if your child has head lice and you bring this helmet back because it doesn't fit him now, and I give it to this one, now this kid's got it and he gives it to his whole family. That was the first thing to stress. The second thing is, you don't know if they've taken good care of it. You don't know if the straps in it are sturdy enough. I don't want to try a helmet on a child, put it on him, find out the straps didn't work the first time we moved, it flew off and he had the straps around his head but no helmet. So we don't redo them. I mean, we'll take them back and dispose of them if that's what it takes, but we cannot retry helmets on them. The health issue was the first one and the safety was the second, and that was by Children's Medical Center.
Helmets have a shelf life. After a certain amount of time, they're no good.
You would think it'd be a long time though.
But it's not.
Because you're looking at the attachments to the straps that are holding the helmet to your head, and that you don't know if they, right, but then you don't know if it's been out in the rain a lot and now it's weakened the support system on it.
I see.
So, and I would never want to put something on a child's head that I didn't think was safe. Because if I found out later that that child had been in an accident, that helmet did him no good at all, I really would feel some responsibility for it.
So you discourage them from handing them down to younger kids?
Well, if you're handing them down to your kids, you're not going to give your child a helmet that isn't right.
If you don't know, I mean, but you may not know what's right.
But then if they come up and ask us that, we do tell them. And most people, if I tell you, because you have a lot of little kids, don't pass them down unless you know that they're good, you're going to tell your friends the same thing. So
We do this every year, so most likely, they come and they get refitted for another helmet, and they bring their younger
since
brothers.
we're on both sides, we hit both sides of Riverside.
About how many helmets did you give away last year?
We gave approximately 500 helmets away last year. We've been trying to keep better records of them, because this way we know how much we have to order.
That's cool. Very good.
So I only needed to order an extra.
For those of you that have been there, it's quite an event. Yeah, I think
Oh,
the
it's
nicest
an
thing we
amazing
do.
event, it is.
It really is.
Yeah, where are you at?
Maybe I leave there every year.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, any other
I
questions?
expect you to be there Saturday.
Any questions for Health and Safety Commission on any other subjects? All right, seeing none, we will then move to the Parks and Recreation Committee. And, who?
It's Mr. McKenzie.
Oh,
You are the lucky spokesman tonight, sir, by default.
Well, we didn't really have anything going on, but I'm willing to entertain any questions. So.
Mr. McKenzie, how long has you've been on the commission?
Oh, not even a year yet. So.
Just a year, yeah, that's what I know.
About 6 months, I think it is.
Very
Somewhere around
good.
there. So.
And it's working out for you okay?
Yeah, so far, yeah.
Okay.
I'm learning as I go along.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, and we appreciate your work on
And
it.
my dog does enjoy the bark park, so.
I'm sorry?
My dog does enjoy the bark park.
Good, oh, good.
So how come you didn't help with it then? You guys didn't help clean up the park and everything. I know, I was there. Breaking in.
It sounds like the two commissions, I thought they would work together on the dog park, but now, sit there and just hear that comment I heard in the audience.
It's different people that are on the commissions now than we brought out.
They did.
Work together. Be friends.
As much as you and I are.
That's not where
Well,
my
that's not gonna work out.
Mr. McKenzie, are there any projects you could talk about that's coming up, or?
I can address that, and I can explain why the commission hasn't met nearly as frequently. The Parks and Recreation Commission, they do have a budget, if you want to call it that. We do have a fund, an account 140 is our Parks Fund. Largely that is used by city staff to replace broken swings or slides, to put down fresh mulch every year in the play areas, those types of things. But there is $50,000 that we budget every year for beautification. And in this instance, it has been earmarked for the last several years as a match to a grant, our NatureWorks grant related to the Glendy property over off of Glendy and Northcliffe. In recent discussions with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, they have determined that typically, well, they would make an announcement, actually last month, with respect to their Nature Works grant. They're actually holding off to making an announcement pending the halfway point of the biennial budget. So they are not going to make an announcement until October. And subsequent discussions with the Parks and Recreation Commission late last year, first part of this year, one of the things that they had talked about was partnering with the construction trades program over at Stebbins High School. So several ideas were discussed at the Parks and Recreation Commission, one of them being some equipment and some items for the Bart Park. Some of them were items that were covered or proposed to be covered under the ODNR grant for Glendy. And another suggestion was the rehabilitation of the picnic shelters. Okay. So in review of ODNR's delay on the announcement, and in review and in consideration of the fact that the Bart Park is in a test phase, if you will, that pilot phase, the construction trades group has agreed to rehabilitate at this point in time the picnic shelter in Royal Park. And that was a note that I believe I provided to you in the manager's report. So we did just get confirmation of that. I believe it was last week. I have not yet had an opportunity to brief the commission on that, simply because they just haven't had an opportunity to meet yet. So the construction trade folks are in the process of acquiring an estimate to do the necessary rehabilitations and improvements out of the park. Once we have that information, that'll be an opportunity for the Parks and Rec Commission to get back together. So I can tell you, it's not for lack of want or lack of try by these folks. It's just that their ability to make improvements or changes to the parks are limited because we financially are limited. So that is what the commission has been working on, albeit passively, but it is what they've been working on the last few months.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions from council for Mr. McKenzie?
Well, why they got me thinking about the dog park, how they are over there on Parks and Recreation area. I think about pit bulls. Do we have anything on the books on pit bulls? Do they have to be insured in our city? Okay, and they. I just wondered.
Actually, these are just vicious dogs.
Oh, they classify as vicious dogs.
We don't name.
Oh, they just say
If
vicious
a dog
dog.
bites once, it doesn't make any difference what size it is. If it's reported, they are now declared a vicious dog.
Okay, but
Not
is there a list of vicious dogs that's on?
No.
Yes.
The state.
You don't want to do that.
Not all dogs are vicious. Not all pit bulls are vicious.
Right. That's correct.
And what's the number one dog that bites?
Small ones.
My Shih Tzu.
Cocker Spaniels.
But I don't give him his
Cocker Spaniels.
no, I don't give him
So,
his snack.
so you can't necessarily, now, it may not be as bad as a larger dog or more muscular dog, but they bite more often than any other dog, at least
Yeah,
that's the
that's
statistics.
more
The carriers will tell you this.
So you gotta be careful on how you define
Vicious dog.
what it is.
Well, I thought they were like on a list.
We don't know.
There's a generic definition, which is basically any dog which is aggressive.
Right.
And then it also goes on to define the American Pit Bull Terrier, any Pit Bull Terrier mix,
So I thought
Stratfordshire Bull Terrier, and the American Stratfordshire Terrier are all specifically listed. But so there are the two definitions. So those breeds are specifically listed, but then any dog which is aggressive or menacing.
Are those in our code or is that
Yes,
the
sir.
state code?
Yes, sir.
Not
That's
the
in
state.
our code.
State
That's our
changed
state.
things.
They just revised theirs and dropped them.
Yeah, that may be something we need to look at.
That will come as part of the
Oh, as a code,
codified,
yeah.
right, as the
Oh,
code
Good,
is updated annually.
Okay, good. That's something we need to talk about, so. Very good, well, good question, thank you. I saw Mr. Thompson came in from Parks and Rec. We're just on the Parks and Rec discussion. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mr. Thompson?
Put you on the spot.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine. I was running a little late from work.
Parks and Rec is working currently with the school district on trying to refab some stuff within the parks. Hopefully getting some things done a lot cheaper than what it would cost if we actually contracted it out to an actual company. Looking at a couple different things, one building, something down in Glendine, or refabbing, I believe, it's Schellenberger.
They opted for Roar based on its condition, and so they're actually getting estimates on that right now. That was the brief right before you walked in the door.
So everything's going good with the parks other than that. They're getting in full swing. We have football already getting ready to start out. So soccer's going strong.
Football or softball?
Excuse me?
Football or softball?
Football's getting ready to start. Sign-ups are starting this weekend.
How come you're not advertising our rodeo out in front?
Because you didn't put the sign up. You put
For
your request in.
February.
Okay, okay.
You're not going to agree.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be done.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Appreciate you.
If you be nice to me.
No.
Okay.
All right, is there anything else being brought before the Parks and Rec? Anything from the audience, Parks and Rec, to discuss? Okay. Seeing none then, is there any other work session items to be brought before this council? Seeing none, we are in recess till 7:30. So please hang around and we'll be starting our meeting at 7:30. Recess.
I would.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Riverside City Council to order, the business meeting for Thursday, May 17th, 2012. And I'd ask the city manager to please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Mr. Manager. And before we go on, I would like to just say that I attended the Montgomery County Law Enforcement Memorial, and this was for all the officers that in the Miami Valley that had their last day of watch starting in 1980. And on October 2nd, 1984, we had a Riverside Police Department's Larry
Village.
It was a village of Riverside, and October 2nd, 1984, and it was Larry Seyfried.
Yes.
That his last day of watch was there, so I'd like to have a moment of silence in remembrance of Officer Seyfried. Thank you very much. Next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for May 3rd, 2012. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there a second?
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Schock. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, there's been an abstention. Please note the abstention. Is there any opposed? Same sign. Motion's carried. I will remind people that if anyone wants to discuss anything before council, they need to fill out a speaker registration form that's back in the back there, and if it's on agenda items, please mark so. If it's not, please mark that also. So please get them up either side of the dais. Next thing is City Manager's report. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Included in your council packet is my weekly report as well as monthly supplementals from staff. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. I know that Mr. Murray also has an additional announcement to make as part of his report. So, Mr. Murray, I'll
Well, what I'd like to say is we were awarded the Safe Routes to School grants.
Oh, good.
Non-infrastructure improvements. So it's at 280 on the infrastructure and 25,000 on the non-infrastructure. So we just got that late today.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
Scott?
All right, are there any questions from the members of council? I just wanted to say, fires report, 4.5 hours of overtime for the month of April. It's pretty darn good, and all the overtime, again, to all the departments. Thank you for keeping that at the level that it is. All of you seem to be doing a great job, and appreciate your efforts on that.
Just for future reference, Mr. Mayor, we're being contracted, the police department's being contracted to provide safety support to the Route 35 project, improvement project. So next month you'll notice there'll be a spike in the police department overtime, but that is all being paid for directly by the contractors. So while you will see that rise, the city is receiving compensation for that. So knowing your concern for overtime, but I get that concern in the budget.
You look at that every month, that's for sure. That's for sure. Good to know that. I saw the orange barrels out there, so I was wondering if that's what was getting going there. So glad to have that happening in our city. Any other comments or concerns for the manager from the manager's report? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment on agenda items. I do have two people that asked to speak, but neither one is on the agenda items. So if there are no one wants to speak on agenda items, we'll move into new business. New business, first order of business is ordinance number 120490. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This ordinance is to establish the Airway TIF district, as council previously briefed at its last meeting, and along the way to legislation from Mr. Murray's perspective. Mr. Murray and I will want to have to answer any questions before the required reading of the ordinance.
All right, this is the first reading, so at this time I entertain a motion for the first reading of the ordinance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Deputy Mayor Denning, seconded by Mr. Schock. The city requires that the first reading of the ordinance be read aloud in its entirety prior to council's vote to adoption. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance?
Ordinance 120490, declaring improvements to certain parcels of real property located in the city of Riverside, Ohio, to be a public purpose under section 5709-40B of the Ohio Revised Code, exempting such improvements from real property taxation, requiring the owners of such parcels to make service payments in lieu of taxes, and establishing a municipal public improvement tax increment equivalent fund. First reading. Whereas sections 5709-40, 5709-42, and 5709-43 of the Ohio Revised Code authorize municipalities to utilize a financing technique commonly known as a tax increment financing, TIF. Whereas the City Council of the City of Riverside, Ohio wishes to use the authority granted pursuant to such TIF statuses in connection with certain improvements in the city in order to meet the public health, safety, welfare, and convenience needs of the area, including new development and traffic capacity. And whereas the council has determined to grant property tax exemption for the parcels comprising the City of Riverside Airway TIF, and whereas the boundary of the Airway TIF shall be coextensive with the boundary of and shall include the parcels of real property specifically identified and depicted in Exhibit A attached hereto. Whereas notice has been given to the Mad River Local School District of the consideration of an ordinance granting a tax increment property tax exemption as required by section 5709.40 of the Ohio Revised Code. And now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Riverside, Montgomery County, State of Ohio, that Section 1, pursuant to Section 5709-40B of the Ohio Revised Code, this council hereby creates the Airway TIF, the boundaries of which shall be coextensive with the boundaries of the parcels and shall include the parcels as specifically identified and depicted in Exhibit A attached hereto, which parcels are located in the incorporated area of the city. Section 2. This council hereby finds and declares that certain public improvements in the city, to wit, the planning, design, and construction of public street improvements, including pavements, walkways, bike paths, traffic control signage and devices, street lighting and alterations to existing streets, including streetscape improvements to Airway Road and Woodman Drive. The planning, design, and construction of utilities, including but not limited to water, sanitary sewers, gas mains, electric facilities, communication facilities, storm water sewers, and detention facilities, and fiber optic conduit. The preparation of plans for land use in the area, the creation or enhancement of buffer areas, parks, recreation facilities, in open areas necessary for ensuring the keepability of adjacent land use, the creation and or enhancement of public service facilities, and the purchase of property rights, right-of-ways, and easements, and other rights and property necessary for the completion of the public improvements listed above, are necessary for the further development of the parcels of land identified and depicted in Exhibit A attached to this ordinance, for the creation of jobs, increasing property values, and the provision of adequate public service in the city of Riverside. The further development of the parcels in the airway tip area will place direct additional demand on public improvements. Section 3. That pursuant to Section 5709-40 of the Ohio Revised Code, further improvements to the parcels in the airway tip area occurring after the date of this ordinance are hereby declared to be a public purpose and are exempt from real property taxation commencing for each parcel, with the first tax year that begins after the effective date of this ordinance and in which improvement resulting from the construction of a structure on that parcel first appears on the tax duplicate of real and public utility property and ends on the earlier of 10 years after such date, or the date on which the city can no longer require service payments to be paid on improvements, all in accordance with the requirements of the TIF status, or the date on which the specific improvements are paid in full from the tax increment equivalent fund, as defined in Section 6 hereof, but in no case shall the improvements on each parcel be exempted from taxation for more than 10 years. It is hereby determined that a portion of the improvements shall be exempt from real property taxation. Such portions shall be 75% of the assessed value of the improvements, and the public improvements directly benefit, or once made will directly benefit the airway tip area. Section 4. That pursuant to Section 5709-42 of the Ohio Revised Code, the owner or owners of the improvements shall be required to make annual service payments in lieu of taxes to the Montgomery County Treasurer on or before the final dates for payment of the real property taxes. Such amounts to be charged and collected in the same manner and same amount as real estate taxes. This council hereby expresses its intention and authorizes the city manager to enter into such agreements as may be necessary and appropriate to assure the payment of such service payments. Section 5. That pursuant to Section 5709-43 of the Ohio Revised Code, there is hereby established the City of Riverside Public Improvement Tax Increment Equivalent Fund, into which the service payment shall be deposited. Money in the tax increment equivalent fund shall be used to finance the public improvements and to make payments to the Mad River Local School District as council may authorize in the future. Section 6. That the proper city officials are hereby authorized to do all things necessary and proper to carry out Sections 1 through 6 above, including but not limited to filing any required applications for tax exemption with the Montgomery County Auditor and or State Commissioner. Section 7. That the clerk is hereby directed to forward a copy of this ordinance to the County Auditor of Montgomery County. Section 8. Pursuant to Section 5709-40 of the Ohio Revised Code, the clerk hereby directed to deliver a copy of the ordinance to the Director of the Department of Development of the State of Ohio within 15 days after its passage, on or before March 31st of each year that exemption set forth herein remains in effect. The Finance Director or other authorized officer of the city shall prepare and submit to the Director of the Department of Development of the State of Ohio the status report required under Section 5709-40 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 9. That it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the passage of this ordinance were taken in open meeting of this council, that all deliberations of this council and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were taken in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121-22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 10. That this ordinance shall take effect and be in force from and after the earliest date allowed by law.
Thank you, Evie. Appreciate it very much. For those who don't know, Evie just started with us about 3 weeks ago, and the clerk is on vacation, so she is filling in for her. And thank you very much for that. So, okay. So, is there any discussion from the members of council? Council members? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next ordinance is ordinance number 120491. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As council has previously been briefed with respect to the recreational project, this ordinance is authorized to purchase the 2713 Old Pike.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Manager. And this is also a first reading. So at this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the first reading of the ordinance.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schock, seconded by Deputy Mayor Denning. The city requires that the first reading of the ordinance be read aloud in its entirety prior to council's vote for adoption. So Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute sales agreement with the owner of the land located at 2713 Troy Pike in Dayton, Montgomery County, Ohio, and being parcels R72 170020037 for the amount of $22,000 in the furtherance of the entrapment recreational project. Whereas the city of Riverside wishes to pursue establishment of the entrapment recreational project located at 2707 Old Troy Pike in Riverside, Ohio. Whereas the establishment of the project requires the purchase of approximately 0.4000 acres parcel listed above. Whereas the acquisition of said land by the city of Riverside would promote protection of Riverside's natural water and land resources. Whereas the acquisition of the said land would provide public access to the Great Miami River and recreational opportunities for the public. Whereas the project will be funded in major part by certain funds granted from the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund of the state of Ohio, and the Clean Ohio Conservation Grant will be in the amount not less than $241,539. Whereas Miami Conservancy District will contribute a local match said fund in the amount not less than $35,000. Whereas Veteran Inc. will contribute a local match to said funds in the amount not less than $3,769. Whereas the city of Riverside pledges to provide no less than $6,761 worth of in-kind services in support of the project. Whereas a condition of receipt of said funds from the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund is to accept a deed restriction similar to that stated in Declaration of Restrictions, a copy which is attached hereto as Exhibit A. Whereas the city of Riverside will contribute the rest of the requisite local match funds through in-kind services of staff, materials, and service of contractors and additional cash contributions. Now therefore be it ordained by the council of the city of Riverside, state of Ohio. Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to enter into the purchase agreement of attached hereto as Exhibit B. Section 2, that the city manager is hereby authorized to accept the declaration of restrictions, a copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A, with the intention that such restrictions shall run with the land. Section 4, the council finds and determines that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this ordinance were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and any of its committees that result in those actions were in a meeting open to the public in compliance by law.
Thank you, EB. Okay. Are there any discussions from members of council? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next new business is ordinance number 120492. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to council being previously briefed on the I-Truck Recreation Project, this ordinance is authorizing the purchase of property addressed at 2703 Old Troy Pike.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. This time I'll entertain a motion for approval of the first reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Schock. The city requires that the first reading of the ordinance be read aloud entirely prior to council's vote for adoption. So Madam Clerk, would you please read the ordinance in its entirety?
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a sales agreement with the owner of the land located at 2703 Old Troy Pike in Riverside, Montgomery County, Ohio, and being parcels I-39 10050050031 and R-72 170020045 in the city of Dayton for the amount of $25,000 in furtherance of the Eintracht recreational project. Whereas the city of Riverside wishes to pursue establishment of the Eintracht recreational project located at 2707 Old Troy Pike in Riverside, Ohio. Whereas establishment of the project requires purchase of 2 parcels listed above. Whereas the acquisition of said land by the city of Riverside would promote protection of Riverside's natural water and land resources. Whereas the acquisition of said land would provide public access to the Great Miami River and recreational opportunities for the public. Whereas the project will be funded in major part by certain funds granted from the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund of the state of Ohio, and that the Clean Ohio Conservation Grant will be in the amount not less than $241,539. Whereas Miami
Conservancy.
Conservancy District will contribute a local match set in funds in amount not less than $35,000, whereas Veteran will contribute a local match to said funds in amount not less than $3,769, whereas the City of Riverside pledges to provide no less than $6,761 worth of in-kind services in support of the project. Whereas a condition of receipt of said funds from the Clean Ohio Conservation Fund is to accept a deed restriction similar to that stated in Declaration of Restrictions, a copy of which is attached here as Exhibit A. Whereas the City of Riverside will contribute the rest of requisite local match funds through in-kind services, staff materials, and services of contractors and additional cash contributions. Now therefore be ordained by the Council of the City of Riverside, State of Ohio, Section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to enter into the purchase agreement attached hereto as Exhibit B, that the city manager is hereby authorized to accept a declaration of restrictions, a copy of which is attached hereto as Exhibit A, with the intention that such restrictions shall run the land, that the council finds and determines that all formal actions of this council concerning relating to the adoption of this ordinance were adopted in open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of the council and of any of its committees that resulted in those actions were in a meeting open to the public compliance with the law.
Thank you, EB. Is there any discussion from the members of council? Mr. Deputy Mayor Denning.
Is it 2707 or 2703? Because it said both in the ordinance. The first, located at 2703, and then down in the first whereas section, it says 2707.
Yep, page before it says 13.
And in the ordinance before that, it says 2713. So
2707 is the entrance building itself.
okay, what's 2703?
2703 would be, 2703 would be Zanelle's property.
Okay, what's
so
2713?
what we're doing is applying the property, but we're listing it as the project as 2707.
Yeah, we just gave the address.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
The second one
Okay,
is the.
it just kind of threw me
Yeah.
one. Okay.
What's 13?
13 is the house in the city of Dayton that we're buying in the canal.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So-
I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Okay.
Yeah, but that gives us all the private property around that in the interest. Yeah.
Okay. I just
Sorry.
know we had problems with addresses before. I
Yeah,
just wanted to
no,
make sure
we're-
we weren't. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion from members of council? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, next resolution, resolution number 12R1688. Mr. Manager.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is authorized the city to enter into a contract with Aero Marking Pavement, marking specialist with respect to the 2020 pavement striping program.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Manager. And is there any discussion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Schock. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. And I just want to go back to the ordinances and just thank you all for all the work that you've done. I know this has not been an easy project, and so I just want to say thank you for all the staff, especially Bob, for all your hard work on this, and it's going to be a great thing for our city. So, looking forward to that. So. Okay, next resolution is resolution number 12R1669. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the city to enter into a contract with Poor Blacktop, who was the lowest best responsive bidder for the 2012 mill and fill repair project.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Then moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Schock. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1671. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is authorized the city to enter into a contract with Poor Blacktop with respect to the water main break repair contract for 2012.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Schock, seconded by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion?
This is 1670. Correct?
This is 1670. Okay, I said 71.
Okay, sorry, just
So it's 1670, yes, yes. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, next one is resolution number 1671, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to the request of council, this resolution is to authorize, to direct the planning commission to evaluate a text amendment to section 1181.15B of the planning, and zoning code of the city of Riverside.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Mr. Fulenkamp. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Ms. Campbell?
No.
Yes. Oh, wait a minute, not really, no.
It's whoever made the motion, then the
Oh.
second.
No.
Ms. Campbell?
No.
Mr. Herb?
Yes.
Mr. Denning?
No.
Mr. Fulenkamp?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
No. Okay. All right, next one is resolution number 12R1672. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the city to enter into a contract with American Pavements, Inc. for the 2012 crack seam project.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Schock. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, next one is resolution number 12R1673. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to, authorize the assessment of street lighting for the Valley View subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, next one is resolution number 12R1674. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the purchase of a backhoe loader, 420 EST Caterpillar, for a value not to exceed $70,000.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion?
We needed this for a while, right?
Yes, we have put as many Band-Aids on as we can with the existing backhoe. So.
Good. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1675. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is authorizing the city to enter into a contract with D&M Excavating for the Brankwood Section 1 project.
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. And that concludes all the business part of our meeting for this evening, so we will then move to public comment of non-agenda items. We do have two people that asked to speak on the non-agenda items. I ask you to please come to the podium and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. First person is Ms. Sally McCarthy. Sally?
Okay. I'm Sally McCarthy, I live at 50 Georgia Lewis. I know there is no left turn lane when you're going down Harston Road to go into Eastwood Park. There's one left turn lane at the first entrance, but at the second one where the big water area is, there's no left turn lane. And it's really a bad situation because cars coming down there, what's the speed limit there, 45? Yeah, it is pretty bad, and suddenly there's a car that wants to turn left there, but possibly there's nothing that the city of Riverside can even do about that. I don't even know who owns that strip of Dayton.
I think that's in Dayton, unfortunately, but
Okay.
we can pass this all your comments
Okay.
on. but,
It's an unsafe situation.
It is.
Okay, that's
Thank
it.
you. No, there's not a light at the Eastwood Lake.
No.
There is a light at Eastwood Park,
Yes,
but it's still.
and there's a left turn lane at Eastwood Park,
Oh, okay, that's right.
but there isn't one
pretty
It's a big
quickly.
lake.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sam. Next person that asked to speak is Edith Ann Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell, if you'd come to the podium and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
I'm Edith Ann Mitchell, and I live at 1125 Mayapple Avenue. When I was in high school, there was a professor or a teacher that I remember very well. I remember many of his lectures. And one of his lectures was on the assets of our future and what they would be. And his prediction was that water was going to be valued higher than gold in the future. We probably have not reached that point yet, but someday, I believe he was correct, that water will be one of our most valuable assets. And in Riverside, we have liquid gold running underneath us, through our grounds, up in our basements, and raining down upon us. One of our biggest problems is that we do have a large source of underground water, and it does come up in springs in various areas. Those springs can change where they come depending on who's building where and what and when. And they have changed over the years. Various different neighbors have tried to come up with different solutions, especially when we were a township. And these solutions may have helped them, but they created problems for others. I think Miss Bryan can remember when a neighbor decided to fill in his ditch across the street from me, and everybody on my side of the road ended up with his mud and water and dirt to the point one neighbor had sludge in his driveway this high. Of course, he was made to dig it out, but most of that ditch doesn't work anyway, but at least it helped someone. But like I said, our biggest problem with our water is that in the past, it's always been patchwork here and there. Everybody having their own idea what to do, how to correct their problem. It's a virtual patchwork. Well, we're not only a city of 7 islands, we're a patchwork city. And we need to tie everything into a unified plan. And right now, the city does not have the resources or the money to correct all our problems. It's going to be expensive. The citizens are going to be the ones who will eventually pay for it in one form or the other. And in today's economy, they really don't have the money and don't want to pay for their taxes. But now would be a good time for us to plan for the future on how we're going to address this problem in a unified manner, that when we do something, it's not going to solve a problem for somebody and create a problem farther down the road, which is what has happened in the past. And mostly before we became a city, we kind of inherited a lot of problems from those years. In researching our water assets that we have, instead of letting the water manage us and becoming a liability, it would be wise on our part for us to manage our water and keep it as an asset, so that in the future it can become our liquid gold. With that,
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Thank you, and we will keep your comments in mind as we continue to move forward, and we are working on that as hard as we can. So, thank you again, and thank you. I appreciate your comments. So, okay, next thing on the agenda, council member comments. Are there any council members that have any comments? Mr. Fulenkamp.
I just want to recognize Mr. Joe Lloyd back there, being a good volunteer citizen and doing something I think is very important. I want to personally thank you, Joe. I know you're going to put a lot of work into this over the next years, but what you're doing is very positive, and thank you very much. thank you all for coming tonight, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Forkamp. Any other discussion from members of council? Mr. Denny?
I attended the Stebbins Air Force Junior ROTC award ceremony, and one of the awards they gave was, they gave the city of Riverside a certificate of appreciation, so I want to pass that on to you.
Great, thank you.
And they also, we got a silver coin from them, so something for, and it was quite enjoyable to see the young folks get their awards, and we get a lot of recognition, and I don't think we seem to appreciate that enough, and it was really good to be there.
Nice.
The other thing I want to remind everybody, we have flyers here for everybody. It's called Take a Pie for the Challenge. And so what we've done here is the mayor, if this is for Riverside Right Path Relay for Life. It's American Cancer Society's fundraiser. It's June 1st and 2nd. Second and third, I'm sorry. Second and third. Better get it right. If we sell 500 luminaries at $10 a piece, the mayor will take a pie in the face. These are whipped cream pies, so it's not going to be a terrible.
And he actually agreed that he would take more if people really excelled.
Yeah, he will take more if people really excel. Now, the city manager is also going to take a pie if the departments raise $200 or $200. The services department, if the services department raises at least $200, he will take a pie. If the fire department raises at least $200, he will take a pie. If the administrative staff raises $200, he will take a pie. Now, all those departments also remember that if you take that $200 that you're raising to put a pie in the manager's face and you buy luminaries with it, it will go towards giving the mayor a pie in the face. Okay, now we get to the deputy chief. Okay, we had a request from some folks at the deputy chief. We talked to the deputy chief about taking a pie. The deputy chief has agreed that if the police department raises $1,000, he will take a pie. Okay? And
He has the gun.
he has a gun, and the folks said that they're not going to have a problem doing that. In addition to that, for every $200 that they raise on top of that, he will take an additional pie. So, okay, and if they take that, let's say $1,200 or $1,800 or $2,500, and they buy luminaries with it, the mayor will be taking a pie. So, and the city manager has also said if the deputy chief takes a pie, he'll take an additional pie. So, there are your challenges for pies in the face. Are we doing those at closing ceremonies?
We're probably doing Saturday night because closing ceremonies are so early.
Okay, so we'll be doing those Saturday evening. So come out to Relay for Life and help us put pies in folks' faces.
This won't be reflected in our appraisals, will it?
We can blindfold him first.
Make your promises.
Of course not.
Of course not. And if it does, I think we have the folks here that can make it show up in his appraisal. Something about not playing well with others. So if anybody wants a flyer and would like to donate to that,
how many pies would he have to get a favorable appraisal? Should I be asking?
And here's the form to if you want to get luminaries. Also, there's trifolds here on exactly what Relay for Life is. And one of the things that, besides funding research for cancer. They also do, why don't you explain this, Julie? It's easier for you. Because you give me like 2 seconds.
Would you want to move to the podium, please? This is Julie Denny.
Yes, hi, I'm Julie Denning, and I'm chairman of the Relay for Life for the Riverside Right Pat area. And the cards that the deputy mayor is talking about, it's one of the other services that American Cancer Society provides for cancer patients, caregivers, survivors. It's an 800 number that's good for around the world. So anyone who has been diagnosed with cancer, who has a family member and they're trying to figure out how to get services or where to go, they can call this one number to the American Cancer Society, and they will hook them up with organizations and places as close to where they live as possible. What this also does, if a cancer patient needs a ride to treatment, we have volunteers that will come and take them to their treatments. Because it's a lot for a caregiver sometimes. Those treatments can be every day. So it's kind of a little bit of respite care without respite care, you might say. But it's a way to give the caregivers a chance. It's also a way for them to find out what's available around my area. Or where's the nearest treatment center? Where can I go? What's going on? And that's just one of the other many, many things that the dollars raised through Relay pays for. And if anyone is interested in being part of a cancer study, they actually are doing their CP3, where they just take a little bit of blood, you fill out a survey, and you have to be between the ages of, I think, 25 and 60, I think it is, don't quote me on that. And every couple of years you'll get a survey, and they want to know about, you know, your eating habits, your weight, if you've come down with any illnesses, things of that nature, because what they've learned is, this is how they've learned how certain cancers and what are some of the things to look for. And they've learned about a lot of other cancers and finding treatments and better ways of helping people through their recovery. And that's the reason we're celebrating more birthdays. If you didn't know, there's also a new chemotherapy drug that American Cancer Society is really working hard on, which helps where your dollars go. And it's a chemotherapy drug that is taken orally with less side effects. Now we have to work on our legislature to make sure that our healthcare companies are allowing it. Because they can do it at home, you know, and with a lot less side effects, or even finding that less people are losing hair with this drug. And that's one of the big things. I could go on, but that's kind of just, there's a lot of other things. Come out to Relay. We will have booths set up with all the other, you know, feel great, look great for cancer patients and everything. There's a lot going on, and the money is really needed so that no one else has to hear those words, you have cancer.
Thank you.
I apologize for hijacking. This is near and dear to my heart, and I thought it's one of those things that I really appreciate council and everybody participating, and it's one of these, this is one of those projects that I believe can make this city into a community and bring our community together, because I think it's going to bring everybody together for a real main cause. And I think it's a very positive thing for us and the city of Riverside, and it teams us with Red Pat, which is a good thing. So I think all those things are very positive. I want to thank staff for everything they do for us. Bob, congratulations on I know all the work that you did to get the safe routes to school, and I think that's a very positive thing that the city is working with the Board of Education, and we're doing this project together, and it's another community as a whole project. So, and the on-trout, everything's coming together. So I really appreciate everything everybody does.
Thank you, Mr. Denning. Anyone else on council have any comments? All right, I just have a few things. Again, the bike rodeo is coming up this weekend, May 19th, 2012, 11 to 1 at Roar Park. So please be aware of that. Have the Air Force magazine that I get every month. So if anyone's interested in that, please look that over. I got the report from Vectren. This is their foundation report. As you heard earlier, Vectren did donate some money to us. What was the number again?
About $4,000.
$4,000 so for our canoe thing at the Eintracht. So here's a report from them. Also got the membership for the National League of Cities, so we are now officially members of the National League of Cities for another year, and that's been good for us as we continue to work with many of the projects there. I did 10 weddings this last 2 weeks, and they're really coming in fast and furious. So that's a good thing too. Thanks. Also want to say that we had the Unsung Hero Award breakfast. As many of you may heard me talk in the past, the Unsung Hero is a person who has Appalachian roots and have worked quietly in the neighborhood. And Ms. Campbell, in the community. Ms. Campbell was an unsung hero a few years ago. Mr. Chakowski was an unsung hero a few years ago. And our old mayor, Johnny Doan, was an unsung hero. And so we had another Riverside resident added to that. And her name is Sissy Long. Brenda Long, if any of you know Miss Long, she is now president of the festival committee. She's just been active in our community, very active, and she was recognized by the Appalachian Board as an unsung hero. So we keep getting the good things that good people from Riverside, and I know that Mr. Smith and Ms. Campbell and Mr. Schock all helped in getting that nomination to the Unsung Hero Awards, and it was greatly appreciated. Also went to a luncheon for the groundwater protection, and had a luncheon at the UD campus. And it was a Children's Waterful Festival, and we were again recognized as a groundwater guardian. We are protecting of the groundwater, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Many of them just simply that we have the ordinances and codes in place to protect our groundwater, because it does, believe it or not, all the water from that gives it to Dayton and a lot of the surrounding areas comes from what was Riverside, and or in the middle of Riverside. So we are the protectors of the groundwater, and we were recognized for that. So.
And just a little side note, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
This is the third largest aquifer in the United States.
Right. And if a lot of you don't know, it's right off of Harshman Road here, just down the road a little bit. Is where all the wells are, so it's right here. So, okay, is there anything else to be brought before council? So, is there a need for executive session, Mr. Manager?
Yes, sir, about 5 minutes.
Okay, so we do need a need for executive session for personnel. So, is there a motion to go in executive session?
Make a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters.
Okay, it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Denny, seconded by
Second.
Ms. Campbell.
Campbell.
Okay, and we need to call the roll on that. Call the roll, please.
Start with
Mr. Benny?
Yes.
Go to bed.
Okay. Yes. Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Mr. Fulenkamp?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. So, again, thank you all very, very much for coming. We appreciate you being here and appreciate all you do in the community. And have a good Memorial Day.